Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia and another month has passed. August is gone and we are well into September now. It is the 13th of September, so it is past time that we went ahead and got into my reading journal to fill out my August spreads with all of the books that I read. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into my reading journal. Alright friends, welcome back to my reading journal. So we are filling out my month in review and pages read tracker first. Starting off with the pages read, just transcribing everything over from my bookmark. I don't know why I forgot that word there for a moment. I've been really bad the last few months about actually preparing my monthly bookmark. For the August one, I did use a piece of the really dark painted paper that I had prepared, but I never actually painted any trees on it, so it's kind of just plain. And then also for September, I have not made a bookmark at all so far, and it is currently the 13th. I've just been writing it down on my phone, which works, but it's not quite as aesthetic, you know? Oh, please excuse my nose and glasses while I try to fill in this page. You might notice there's kind of in some of the longer lines, a little darker spot in the middle, and that's just because I had already glued a piece of, taped a piece of paper to one of the following pages, so that's just the marker going over that bump, doing a funny little thing. I definitely had fewer days this month where I read large amounts. It's almost kind of more consistent in the amount than in previous months. Usually once a month or so I'll have a day where I read a crazy amount, but as you can see, the maximum for August was 232, which is still a decent number of pages, but I feel usually I'll have one day where I read 400 or 500 pages, and I just didn't have that this month, which is fine. All months are going to be different. But now we are working on the month in review. I had a pretty high average star rating. It was 4.6, which is definitely the highest I think that I've had so far this year. I didn't read a high number of books. I think I finished out at 4 physical books and then also 1 audiobook. I did count the audiobook in the average star rating, but I did not count it for pages read, because obviously it doesn't have pages in the traditional sense, so I just didn't bother. So I'm using the same information graphs that I did last month, just kind of changing up the format a little bit. So average stars, just some page information, total, lowest, highest, pages by day of the week, and then page distribution by book. So actually, interestingly, most of my books were pretty similar lengths, as you can see. Magic, Steeped in Poison was the shortest, but they're all kind of pretty similar. There's no one book that has a really huge portion of the pie, so to speak. So apparently Mondays and Tuesdays are my high reading days, and the weekends not so much. It really just has to do with when my partner is working, because obviously he works a Monday to Friday, so then on the weekend when he's not working, I hang out with him, and so I don't usually do so much reading, which makes sense. But yeah, now we are on to the book spreads, and we are starting off with the Night Circus. I don't actually think that was the first book I read. I think I might have read Lies of Locke Lamora first and then just put them backwards, but it doesn't super matter to me that much. I mean, I would kind of prefer to have them in chronological, oh my god, words, reading order, but them being a little mixed up doesn't bother me. You could still see with actual reading order if you look at the pages read by day tracker, so all is well. So for the Night Circus spread, I sketched out the little tent illustration that is on the cover of the copy that I read, which I think is a really interesting illustration, but I am going to change up the red color, because it's a whole thing where the whole circus is black and white, and then the super fans will wear black and white but with a touch of red. So that's what's in the actual illustration, is the swirls are the touch of red. But because I'm trying to have an element each month that goes throughout each page in that month, even throughout book pages, I chose for this month to make it blue. I could have done trees, but I feel trees are harder to work into every spread than blue is just a color it's easy to work in. I do think red probably would have been more striking in this illustration, but the blue still works for me, and it kind of adds into the cohesive theme that I'm looking to create across this month. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little bit like rough. It's like suddenly become fall, so I think I might be getting a little bit of a fall cold perhaps. I mean, it's definitely not that cold yet, but it did go pretty quickly from being like high 20s. We even had like a heat wave last week that it was like 35 degrees with the humidex, and now it is 20 degrees. Actually, the day that I'm recording this part, it was like 13 degrees this morning. I mean, it's still morning. I think it's still only like 15 degrees or something, which is quite cool. Definitely temperature changed really quickly, but that is kind of just what it does in this part of the world. But I'm definitely really feeling the fall energy a lot more than I did like a week ago. I mean, it's still technically not fall. There's still, I think, 7 days until fall starts officially, but we all know that September is fall. It just is, you know, like there's no debate there. I think I'm probably gonna start next week recording like a reading vlog that is more like fall inspired and looking to convey the fall energy, as it were, you know, like trying to do some like stereotypical sort of fall things in it. Although a lot of like the things that I would count as like stereotypical fall things, like apple picking and going to like a pumpkin patch, they won't be like available yet. Like some apples might start to be ready if I start in like a week or two, but apples are definitely like late September kind of deal for the picking usually. Maybe, I think that's correct. Yeah, so the fall crops and stuff are not in yet, but I could do other things, you know, like I can still drink apple cider even if this year's apples aren't coming in yet. So I think, yeah, look forward to that in the weeks to come, that I'm going to do a autumn inspired reading vlog where I try to bring the autumn energy, and hopefully it will be actually autumn by then, so it can be like, I don't know, actually like seasonally appropriate and not just like still summer. Not that it really matters, I guess. But yeah, I also wanted to talk about my pages read tracker a little bit, because not that it's changed at all, but I am going to be in January at 2 full years of tracking my pages read every day. So that's like quite a bit of data, and I think that I'm going to make a video where I like combine all of the data and then I sort of look to see like what kind of interesting patterns are in there, you know, like what is my most read day of the week over 2 years. I mean, if it's similar to the last couple of months, then it's going to be like Monday or Tuesday, but I have no idea. I think it will be really interesting to like put all the data together and see what interesting things emerge. So let me know if you are interested in that type of video. I think it will be fun, but obviously not everybody is interested in data. So I mean, that's just the same thing that could be said for any video. Not everybody's going to be interested in every topic. That's how humans work. But speaking of the spread that I'm actually currently working on, because I haven't talked about it at all yet, it's for Lies of Locke Lamora, which I gave 5 stars. And for the illustration, I'm just doing, there's like this wasn't the cover of the book that I read, but there is a cover where there are these towers on it. They're supposed to be like the glass towers from the city. So I just kind of copied that illustration and then used the 3 blue colors that I used in the month in review spread to color them in. For Magic Steeped in Poison and An Immense World, I tried to create like an interesting border that encompassed both the elements from like the monthly spread theme, and then also on Magic Steeped in Poison's cover there's like a whole bunch of colors and they're like swirling around. So I really wanted to try to add that element into this. So I'm doing the trees in marker instead of paint, just because I didn't feel like mixing paint colors and stuff. And they actually like applied really strangely. Like you'll see when I add the swirl colors, because they're going like both on the paint and on like the page, that they're a lot brighter on the page than they are on the paint. So that's kind of interesting. I guess it kind of felt like it was like maybe absorbing some of the color somehow, which is a bit strange, but it honestly, like, it was really smooth. It almost made the markers blend more easily, like almost like, I don't know, it stopped the paper from absorbing them, so they were like glossier, but it also made them less pigmented. So I'm not totally sure what the deal is there, but no, it works for me. The colors just like swirlies did not quite work out as well as I was expecting. I should have used, I think, brighter colors maybe, because I chose like a bluey green as one of them because that is one of the colors on the cover, but because the background is all blues, it doesn't really stand out so much, so we lose a little bit of the colory swirly effect. I should have chosen a different color there. And then for the title, I'm just using like a block font that is really similar to the one on the cover, just like sans serif, thick kind of font. I was thinking about going in and adding like the colored sort of borders that exist on the actual cover, but I never ended up doing it, so it is what it is. And then I'm just using like the same font for An Immense World. I can't remember actually what the font was on that cover, but I just wanted to make these two fit together on this page. But I did do that title in green just because there wasn't really any elements on this page that represented An Immense World, so I wanted to throw in at least a little bit of green because, you know, it's a book about nature and the cover is green. It's definitely a lot brighter green, but I didn't think a bright green would fit in this spread at all, so I just chose like a deep green. And I'm realizing now that I forgot to write the ratings on these reviews, so I should probably go back and do that, but I didn't specifically leave a spot. Like, I think it would probably look fine if I just put it underneath the author name probably. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this spread turned out, but I don't know, I think I should not have done the green. I think I should have just let it be black, and even though it's not including an element from that book, it doesn't really matter. And now I'm moving on to Fool's Errand, and I am once again leaning my silly little head into this shot. And this one I used like just like the font, like title font graphic thing that is on, I think it's the UK cover edition. My edition just has like a kind of ugly, I mean the font itself isn't ugly, but the styling they did to it is kind of ugly, just like traditional kind of serif font, but all in all capitals. I mean caps is fine, but obviously this one's caps too. But this one has just like so much more personality, like it's like bumpy and really interesting. So I decided to just use that. And then I also had these two strips of the dark painted paper that I decided to include. And I don't know, I just wish that the color of them matched the color of the marker I used for the title more, but I didn't really have a marker that was that color exactly that I could use for the title, so it is what it is, I suppose. And I had lots of room for writing on this one because I did have quite a bit to say about this book, so I usually sort of use, like I make notes for the video I do every month, like reviewing books that I read that month, and I'll use those notes for the reviews that I put into my reading journal, but there's not usually nearly enough space to write everything that I say about the books, so I try to just like sort of summarize, note down the parts that I felt were most unique about what I felt about that book, I guess, and just were the most interesting to me. So that is kind of how I try to summarize things. As I like went down the page, I'm noticing now that like my writing became more and more sloped to the right. So I definitely always have like a hard time keeping my writing like really consistent. It tends to sort of wiggle around and do its own thing, which I guess that's just, you know, part of it being handmade, you know, that it has flaws and you could tell that it was made by a person. And those are all of the spreads for this month. So here's a quick flip through looking at the cover page, and then we have month in review and pages read. And then we're looking at the first two books, Night Circus and Lies of Locke Lamora. And then finally the one we just did with our final three books. Welcome back, friends. I hope you enjoyed all of the spreads in this month's reading journal. And if you read any of these books, feel free to comment down below and let me know what your opinion was on them. But that is all that I have time for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.